Welcome to CLMD Connect. In support to the Comprehensive Region-Led Learning Continuity Plan (LCP). I teach. Integrating technology academic community, the household. Ensuring every learner is safe and protected anytime, anywhere. Anchored on Sulong Idokalidad. This is DepEd Regional Office 11, delivering quality education across Davao region.
Good afternoon, everyone, as we welcome to our breakaway sessions 6 and 7 on the Regional Training on Literacy Instruction. Today, July 28, 2020, we will sing our nationalistic song.
Welcome to CLMD Connect. In support to the Comprehensive Region-Led Learning Continuity Plan (LCP). I teach. Integrating technology academic community, the household. Ensuring every learner is safe and protected anytime, anywhere. Anchored on Sulong Idokalidad. This is DepEd Regional Office 11, delivering quality education across Davao region. Welcome to CLMD Connect. In support to the Comprehensive Region-Led Learning Continuity Plan (LCP). I teach. Integrating technology academic community, the household. Ensuring every learner is safe and protected anytime, anywhere. Anchored on Sulong Idokalidad. This is DepEd Regional Office 11, delivering quality education across Davao region.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we have to check that our resource facilitators this morning played an integral part in providing professional learning to our teachers and to our learners as well. Their eagerness and spirit of commitment, focus on education, achieved learning of greater excellence. And of course, to our respected Department of Education Regional Director, Dr. Evelyn R. Fetalvero, CESO 4, to our Assistant Regional Director, Dr. Maria Ines C. Asuncion, CESO 5. Of course, we have our ever supportive and enthusiastic Chief Janet G. Deloso of the Curriculum and Learning Management Division, Dr. Manuel P. Vallejo, the Education Program Supervisor, in the Region 11. To our teachers, to our dear participants, school heads, good afternoon and welcome to this afternoon's breakaway session.
Yes, good afternoon, Miss Ava. Of course, good afternoon also to the rest of the facilitators for English, Dr. Tito Andrina, Dr. Alan T. Gelaran, Dr. Raymond Aquino, Dr. Darwin Suyat, Dr. Emily Raquel, Dr. Maria Angelita Perpetua Suelto, Dr. Nancy Sumagaysay, Dr. Jesusa Ambrona, Dr. Maria Gina Silvestre, Dr. Hilda Openia, Dr. Yamila Berdin, Dr. Narmela Espedido, and Mr. Bernardino Magna Jr. Thank you so much for your valuable contribution to our regional online training on literacy instruction. And of course, Miss Ava, to all our teacher participants, we are very delighted with your active participation. With all the feedbacks and comments that we are getting, we can say that your attention are indeed focused on our every session. And for that, thank you very much.
Precisely correct, Miss Marjorie. And of course, this is really a well-attended gathering in entire Region 11, given the fact that we have our education supervisors and the school heads and the PSDS who really gave their powerful presentation that to be of help in the learning of our learners in the station. And of course, there are a lot of viewers and attendance is open. And of course, the evaluation will be done after the last speaker this afternoon. And they will be given up until the evening time to comply the daily evaluation. Thank you so much to our viewers and from the Santa Ana National High School, Dr. Ruel A. Alvarez. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so may we request our controller to please post our attendance link for this afternoon session. All right. So our attendance link is posted below and we will request our controller to also post it on the live section, live comment section so that you can copy our link. And once again, I would like to reiterate, Ms. Ava, that our evaluation link will be posted a little bit later and will be opened at 2:30 p.m. Again, it will be opened at 2:30 p.m., but we request everybody to answer only after the last session, right? Answer after the last session this afternoon. The fact the link will be given, but we request you to answer after the last session this afternoon. And of course, we still welcome all queries or feedbacks and questions from our viewers. Please feel free to access our Padlet link. Okay, it's posted down below. Our Padlet link is posted below. So please send in your questions and we will be joined by two new facilitators for this afternoon. Okay, Miss Ava. I think our first facilitator for this afternoon is ready already.
Yes, precisely correct. Our breakaway session 6, employing vocabulary instruction for effective word structure and meaning recognition from the Division of Davao del Sur, our resource facilitator, Madam Leonila A. Burdin, as school head of Matutuman Elementary School, Division of Davao del Sur. Please take it away, Madam.
Welcome to CLMD Connect. In support to the Comprehensive Region-Led Learning Continuity Plan (LCP). I teach, integrating technology, academic community, the household, ensuring every learner is safe and protected anytime, anywhere. Anchored on Sulang Idokalidad. This is DepEd Regional Office 11, delivering quality education across Davao Region.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Leonila Berdin. Welcome to an exciting Zoom session. Our topic for today is employing vocabulary instruction for effective word structure and meaning recognition. This session will make us learn the importance of vocabulary instruction in helping a learner become a successful and independent reader. Our resource person for this session is Dr. Gretel Laura M. Kajong, Education Program Supervisor of the Schools Division of the Tacloban City, Region 8. Before we start, let's take note of the following session objectives. First, explain that vocabulary skill will better equip a learner develop reading comprehension and fluency. Second, plan interesting and innovative ways how vocabulary instruction can be delivered in the classroom or through self-learning modules. For our first activity, we call this Check This Out. Let us find out what is your thought about the statements that will be flashed on the screen. On a paper, write yes if you agree with the statements. Otherwise, write no. First statement. Next. Third statement. Fourth. Fifth. Sixth. Seventh. And eighth. How many numbers you answered yes? How many no's? We will check this out as the discussion progresses. Next activity, we call this Get Engaged. The task 1 or activity 1, you're going to have this words well. Build words around the base or root word arm. Form as many words as possible by adding a prefix, a suffix, or both. The more words you form, the better. Show your output through this chart. Next, task number 2. We call this word fashion. Create or fashion words from the letters in the circle to complete the puzzle. Okay, please use your camera to capture this slide. Next, task number 3, the word record. Keep a record of this word fragment. Use a card to keep its data or information. You have the name, etymology, gender, date of birth, place of birth, parent's name. Also, you're going to put picture as a symbol or a logo and write a description. Your answers will be sent to the link provided. How did you find the tasks? Please share your thoughts about the following questions. You can answer it using our chat box. First, how did you find the tasks? Second, how this kind of activities promote the learning of vocabularies? Number 3, should vocabulary development be facilitated all the time with this kind of activities? Why? Number 4, how else can we teach vocabulary development? We will now deepen our understanding on the topic, employing vocabulary instruction for effective word structure and meaning recognition through the video facilitated by Dr. Gretel Laura M. Kajong. Jot down your answers to the previewing questions as you watch the video.
Vocabulary development is one of the 14 domains in our curriculum guide in the languages. 14 yon, and it's one. You know that it's the sum of words. I don't have to read the definition to you. When we say about vocabulary, you know what is it? It's the words that will facilitate learning, that will facilitate understanding of anything that is being said, anything that is being read, anything that is being listened to. So it's vocabulary that we use when we express our ideas. But may I ask you, what's your vocabulary? When a child grows up, he acquires meaning or oral vocabulary. Oral language has something to do with the acquisition of meaning vocabulary. So these are the vocabularies that he learns or she learns from listening. And then it's also the same vocabulary that he uses in conversing with others. Okay? This is acquired from the child, from the time the child is born, when he starts talking until he goes to school. That's what we call meaning vocabulary. Now, when the child is already in the school, he starts acquiring the literate or written vocabulary. As he learns literate vocabulary. Okay, you know, when a child gets to school, he starts decoding, he starts reading, he starts writing. So when a child starts writing and reading, he also starts acquiring his literate vocabulary. So these are the vocabulary that will facilitate more comprehension in his reading in school. This will facilitate his academic task. These vocabularies can be used in two ways. It can be receptive vocabulary or it can be expressive vocabulary. The receptive vocabulary, these are the vocabularies that he may use while listening to some persons. So these are the same vocabularies that will make him understand when a person talks to him. The receptive vocabulary will also make him understand what he is reading. On the other hand, we have what we call expressive vocabulary. These are the vocabularies that the child uses when he speaks and when he writes. Okay, he writes a letter, he writes a paragraph. The expressive vocabulary is the one being utilized by the child. Therefore, in school, what is it that we need to develop among our students? In school, our main goal is for the child to improve, to enhance, to scale his literate vocabulary, because these are the same vocabularies that will help him go through his academic tasks. Let's think that beginning reading instruction is like building a house. Just imagine when we give beginning reading instruction, we are starting to build a house. And who is that house? It's the child. It's the learner. So let's look at this house. At the base of the house is the oral language development. In other words, when we start teaching the children to read, we have to begin to develop his oral language. Because we are in a hurry to make children read, we forget that we have to lay down the foundation. And this foundation is oral language. So, before we begin teaching vocabulary, oral language is even the foundation of learning vocabulary. Once the child keeps listening to words, he acquires vocabularies. Once a child is being talked to, he starts to learn new words. On the door is phonological awareness. The phonological awareness will lead the children to learn how to read. He is facilitated with his oral language. He keeps listening to the different sounds. He keeps listening to the different words. and it will develop in him phonological awareness. Now, phonological awareness, of course, will create the development of vocabulary. And look at where vocabulary is in the house. It's the pillars of the house. Very important is to teach, to develop among our learners the vocabulary skills. On the roof of the house is the comprehension. In other words, comprehends what he reads, comprehends what he is listening to, comprehends what he is writing. He has that confidence. Eventually, it will also bring him to read. Word recognition, the phonics. And of course, it will create fluency in reading, in writing, in speaking. Vocabulary should not be underestimated. This is one of the skills that will bring success to our beginning reading instruction. That's the implication. There are some researches about this. It's the foundation of reading level. What else? It contributes the acquisition of reading comprehension. There is strong relationship between vocabulary and comprehension. That vocabulary is a tool for thinking. The big question is this one. We keep talking the what and why, but the most difficult, the problem actually is how. How do we do that? What are the things that we should do in order to teach our teachers vocabulary development, vocabulary skill? First, I would like to tell you that according to researches, there are two ways in which we can teach vocabulary competence. This is through implicit vocabulary instruction and explicit vocabulary instruction. So when we say implicit vocabulary, it's a spontaneous learning. Spontaneous lang siya. It may happen within or outside the learning process, the formal instruction. On the other hand, explicit instruction, it's an intentional planned instruction. It's not always that we teach vocabulary in an explicit manner. There are times that we have to teach vocabulary in an implicit or indirect ways. So what are these ways? What are these implicit vocabulary strategies? The first one is we engage learners in oral language experience. Kaya nga, based siya sa house. Because if you don't allow the children to learn through oral language opportunities, it will be very difficult for you to introduce words. Why is oral language very important? For example, when you are asking the children to read the word table, and the child has been listening to the word table many times, and it becomes part of his vocabulary, it will be very easy for him to decode the word table because it's already part of his mind. In other words, he could have that impression that what he can say, he can read. There is a specific symbol for the words that he is saying. Okay? That's why oral language is very important. Now, number two, we expose learners to read aloud activities. What are these read aloud activities? Okay, when you model how a poem is read, it's reading aloud. When you have shared reading of big books, that is reading aloud. But reading aloud can develop vocabulary because while the teacher reads a selection or a story, sometimes he would pause on certain words that may be difficult. Therefore, he would incidentally teach the meaning of this word. Okay, that's why read aloud is very important. Another is creating a rich print environment. How do you create a rich print environment? How do you do that? Labeling of objects in the classroom is developing vocabulary. This is a very powerful tool of developing vocabulary. The child keeps seeing these words. You don't have to teach window, but since the child keeps seeing the word, it will be impressive in his mind already. What else? How else can you create rich print? Creating word wall. Are our teachers still doing or creating word wall? What else? Word mobile. Have you seen a word mobile? When I was teaching grade 2, I used to create word mobile. Mga hanger lang siya. Tapos merong mga word card, nakabitin lang na mga word. Mga hanger, clip hanger. Tapos nakalagay lang sa classroom. That's a word mobile. Word calendar and many others. Another creating rich print is putting a mini library inside the classroom. Because when a child, especially for Key Stage 1, you provide picture books. The child keeps scanning the books and he starts learning some new words, incidentally. You don't have to teach that explicitly. Okay, and the fourth one, of course, because you have your mini vocabulary, a mini library, you encourage the learners to read stories on their own, especially stories that has been used in the shared reading. And the last strategy is to translate into the learner's language. Incidentally, yun nga, nagre-read aloud, there is a word that may be difficult for the children. Sometimes a child would ask, "Teacher, ano pong ibig sabihin ng word na sinabi mo?" So, the teacher will translate. However, may I caution everyone that translation is the least from among the strategies. We should not resort to translating always because some words cannot be understood by presenting it in isolation. It should be used in context. Okay? So it's the least of the strategies. It's the least powerful of the strategies I am talking about. Okay, let's go to explicit instruction. Now, there are some varied ways how we can explicitly develop vocabulary. The first one is to provide specific word instruction. So, we select words to teach, but in our process of selecting words to teach, for example, prior to reading a story, we have what we call unlocking of word difficulties, isn't it? This is actually selecting a word, but not all words in the selection which you think are difficult should be unlocked. What's the reason? As a teacher, you should only choose what are the relevant words, the words that are related to the topic, very relevant words to the story, because not all words should be unlocked. The more words being unlocked, the less impressive to the minds of the children. So as much as possible, you have to control it. Only those words that are relevant to the topic or to the story that is being read. Okay? Now, may I give you an example? One of the things that I would always find out whenever I would check lesson plans, in the unlocking of difficulties, teachers are not very conscious on how it should be done. They would just say, the following words shall be unlocked through picture. Tapos nakalista yung word. 1, fragment, 2, swell, 3. Now, this is how we should do unlocking of difficulties. Now, the story is about a vendor of flowers. Look at this one. We are using picture clues. But it's not enough for teachers to present a picture. Okay, you present a picture, but you have to use sentence at the same time giving clue. This one is the picture. This is Manong Ted. He is a vendor. The word to be unlocked is vendor. He goes around our town to sell fresh buko. Sometimes he sells his goods on the side of the streets. But do not stop there. What will facilitate understanding is the question. What does a vendor do? So what does a vendor do? He goes around our town to sell fresh buko. So in other words, the child will understand that vendor is not just staying in a place. A vendor may go around to sell items, or he is usually situated on the streets. Okay? Now, how does a vendor sell the goods? So the question there is very important because the question will help the students, the learners, understand the meaning of the word. It's not enough for a teacher to present a picture. So Here is another word. The word is bouquet. The word bouquet has something to do with a story. Look at that one. We give Teacher Rina a bouquet on her birthday. But this should not be read by the students. This should be read by the teacher. Okay, because the modeling of word is also very important. She was so happy to see many flowers arranged in pink paper tied with a pink ribbon. So what makes up a bouquet? How does a bouquet look like? Titingnan nila yung picture. They will look at the picture. Now, when is a bouquet given to a person? What's the occasion there? Birthday. Therefore, the teacher may even ask, aside from birthdays, what other occasions can we give bouquets to a person? Okay. So we have another word, the corsage. The word corsage has to be read, to be pronounced by the teacher. It's not correct that the teacher say, read the word. Before the student read the word, he should model first how to pronounce the word. Okay, so what I am saying here is picture clue is not picture clue if there are no sentences that will give clues to the meaning of the picture and at the same time facilitated with questions, scaffolded by questions. So this is one sample. But I would like you to try this. Structural clue. Answer the first one. Give me the word. The word is seed. It is produced by plants where new plant grows. So what's the word? It's seed. Okay? The children analyze it through structural clue. What's the word? The word is seal. Now, teachers can create exercises like this. Teachers should be creative enough to create games like this so that learning a vocabulary will not be boring, will not be traumatic, will not be something scary to our learners. Let's have another technique. Number 2 is utilizing word learning strategies. Are we still allowing our students to bring dictionaries or thesaurus to class? It's still good to allow our children to scan because dictionary will help them learn the etymology of the word, the history of the word, the pronunciation, the parts of speech, the meanings and variation. Okay? It's very important. That's one technique. Another technique is morphemic analysis. Through morphemic analysis. So, what is morpheme? It's the smallest part of word which has meaning. Now, words, children has to analyze, has to realize that words are created by combining morphemic elements. That it is composed of root word and base word. We have to teach our learners the word formation process, that there is process of creating words, that words can increase, words can be chunked through the base word and the suffixes and the prefixes. Actually, the word tasks, the tasks 1 and 2 are example of morphemic analysis activities. Okay? What did we do in the task 1? We created a word tree using the word dick. That's a root word. And then from the word dick, you created a lot of words. What are the words you have created? Dictionary. So the word dick means to speak. Diba? Predict. The word predict. What else? Contradict. To speak against. Contrary to what is. What else? Ano po? Verdict. Yes. Dictum. That's right. Dictator. See, you have created words out of that word dick. That's an example of morphemic analysis. On the word swell, what did we do? On the word swell, we make the word swell. Pag sinabing swell, pinalaki natin. Paano ninyo pinalaki ang word na arm? Meron tayong disarm, ano pa? Armory, army, armament, ang dami. You have to teach our children. Sometimes they would add words which are no longer included. So you have to teach that. This word does not have the root word arm. For example, sinabi ninyo harmony. Kasali bang harmony doon? Hindi. Hindi kasali yung harmony doon. So you have to teach that. Okay. Now, aside from morphemic analysis, we have what we call the contextual analysis. The first one is definition. You define, you give meaning to a word. For example, haberdashery, which is a store that sells men's clothing. That's the definition of haberdashery. Okay, is becoming more common today. That's one. That's one type of context clue. Another type is restatement or synonym. Okay? Lou was sent to the haberdashery to find a new suit. He needed to wear one for his uncle's wedding. So there is a restatement. He needed to wear one for his uncle's wedding. So it can be a restatement or synonym. Sometimes you provide a synonym to the word that you are unlocking. A synonym which is more familiar to the learners. Another is contrast or antonym clues. So Lou wanted to go to the haberdashery, but Anne wanted to shop at the boutique. So what are the contrasts here? Haberdashery and the word boutique. Boutique, which is a store for women, which mostly sells women's apparel. Another is what we call inference or general context clue. Okay? Kagaya ng ginawa ko sa vendor. That was an inference or context clue. Inference or general clue. And the last type is the punctuation, which we seldom use. We either use the quotation mark or the dash to signal to the children that this one is a new word. Okay? So these are the techniques for context clues. Now, let me see. I will give you a sample. Okay? Think. This one. What type of context clue is being used here? My family will dine in a restaurant tonight. We will eat at Shakey's. What's the type of context clue? Synonym clue? Okay, restatement or synonym clues. Okay, let's have another. This one. He is so pleased of what he saw. How can he be sad when he knows mother has prepared all what he needs for the camping? What do you think? What kind of clue? It's a contrast or an antonym clue. Very good. Let's have another. This one. Nena did not expect that her father would come home today from Manila. She was surprised when she saw him. What do you think is the type of context clue? Anong context clue yan? Ano po? Inference? Okay, it's an inference or general context clue. Okay, let's have another. This one. Ano yan? Ano po yan? Anong context clue? Okay, it's a definition context clue. Okay? Okay. Now, another is the semantic clusters. Another explicit instruction of teaching vocabulary skill is semantic clusters. What is this semantic cluster? In other words, we have to teach our children to group words, to word associations. The word web that we have done is actually an example of semantic cluster activity. Okay? Ito yon. By using different graphic organizer, you can teach our students a semantic cluster technique in developing vocabulary skill. Now, for a start, you can create a semantic cluster like this, a graphic organizer, wherein you have some questions. Sometimes you leave it blank. And another technique for explicit instruction on vocabulary development is fostering word consciousness. What is this? Very important for us to foster word consciousness in our children. For example, games. For example, this one, the word fashion. Look at this one. Ginawa, when I did this to my class, I let the children bring index card, yung medyo malaki. Tapos naggawa kami ng word record. Every word record, nakatago yan, meron silang envelope. At the end of the year, paramihan sila ng word record. Yes, paramihan sila ng word record. Naggagawa sila any word. Yung una, naka-prescribe ako ng words. Later, they are the ones making the word record. Any word that is interesting to them, ginagawaan nila ng word record. Ginagamitan nila yan ng dictionary. At first, tinuruan ko sila paano. Now, look at how I made it very relevant to children. For example, gender. Tinuruan ko sila. Pero ang gender na yon part of speech. Para may connect sa kanila, parang gumagawa sila ng record ng tao. This one, I made them apply the skill on filling up of forms. May lesson yon sa grade 5, filling up of forms. So ginawan ko nito. Ano to? Index card lang ang pinapagawaan ko sa kanila. Then date of birth. History ng word. Titingnan lang nila doon sa dictionary. Then place of birth, saan siya nag-originate. Tapos yung parent's name, yung word origin. Sino yung original word na yon? For example, yung fragment, what's the parent's name? Frangery? Fragmentum, yes. Ang variations, pwede si bata naglagay synonyms. Anong mga synonyms ng fragments? Antonyms. Other forms, fragments, fragmentation, fragmented. Other variation yon. Now, that's morphemic analysis. Applying yan. Then the symbol, I allow the children, kasi nga form siya, lagyan ninyo ng ID, picture. So dino-drawing nila, kung ano nung drawing lang, magkaiba. And it's very nice to see this word record. Naka-display yan sa, sa learning stations nila. Then the definition, they can have their own definition or sometimes they get it from the dictionary. This is a very interesting activity. So this will foster word consciousness among our students. If teacher is innovative enough, creative enough to create activities like this, our children will love to learn words by their own. We have to expose words repeatedly in multiple contexts. Now, when we drill on vocabulary, it's not simply drilling on the words, asking them to read the words and asking them the definition. The word has to be used in varied ways. For example, in a day, pwedeng gamitin sa story. It can be used in a story. It can be used in a created song. It can be used in the way you converse with the students. Gagamitin mo in varied multiple ways. That's one way. Okay? Intentional yan na gagamitin. Okay? Paulit-ulit. Especially when the teacher is handling the same subjects, he can use it in the context of math, in the context of science. Doon, gagamitin niya yon. Okay, and the last pa pala, restructuring vocabulary tasks. Now, sometimes there are difficult selections that children would read. You can change some difficult words. Change the difficult words into something more familiar to them. But after that, you present the original text, yung kinunan mo ng mga words. Then let the children compare so that the words that you have changed, you have replaced, alam nila kasi nabasa nila yung simpler form. I know there are a lot of varied, innovative ways. What is needed only is for teachers to create, for teachers to be resourceful, for teachers to think. It's not enough to look at the books. According to research, the 6-year-old child typically has a 2,600 word expressive vocabulary and a receptive vocabulary of 20,000 to 24,000 words. Sabihin natin sa mother tongue yun. Mother tongue yun ha, we are talking about mother tongue. By the time a child is 12 years old, he or she will understand about 50 words. Now, if we start building vocabulary as early as grade 1, oral language in English, do you think he will acquire this? Oral language lang muna tayo sa grade 1. Huwag tayo magmadaling magpabasa. Kasi yun ang base para makabasa siya. Now, if he's already facilitated with the words, he understands the words, it will be easier for us to teach reading in English. That's our challenge because this is research-based. Now, my challenge, how would you make it possible for all children to achieve this? Each of us has a mandate and has something to do in order for this program to really be successful. Okay?
Let's have this reflection question. As a teacher, how do you make it possible for all your learners to achieve the 50,000 word capacity at the time he reaches 12? You can share your answers in our chat box. Since we have no face-to-face teaching and learning this August, make a self-learning module. Choose one competency from the list below. Craft a self-learning module that learners can do at home. And send your output to this email to the link provided. Now, look into your responses and the check it out activity. Your activity 1. First question. Vocabulary as the knowledge of word and word meaning. The answer is yes. Number 2. Vocabulary links phonics and comprehension. The answer is yes. Number 3. Vocabulary as a thinking tool. The answer is yes, because reading involves thinking. Number 4. Vocabulary development begins when a child enters school. The answer is no. The child is already facilitated with meaning vocabulary when he enters school. Number 5. Translations should be the first strategy to use in building vocabulary. The answer is no. Not all words can be understood when translated into the mother tongue. Some words are better understood when used in context. Number 6, all difficult words should be unlocked. No, only words with relevance to the story selection should be unlocked. The fewer the words, the stronger its retention. Number 7, early vocabulary acquisition takes place through oral context. The answer is yes. And number 8, vocabulary instruction should always be taught explicitly. No, because vocabularies can also be learned implicitly. Before we end our session today, let me share with you a quote from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. The limits of a language are the limits of a universe. By helping the children increase their vocabularies, we will help them become more independent readers. And when they become independent readers, we help them broaden their world. Thank you and good afternoon.
Welcome to CLMD Connect, in support to the Comprehensive Region-Led Learning Continuity Plan LCP. I teach, integrating technology academic community, the household, ensuring every learner is safe and protected anytime, anywhere. Anchored on Sulong Idokalidad.
Thank you so much for
Regional
that
Office
valuable
11,
topic,
delivering
Ma'am
quality education
Yonila.
across Davao region.
The link for the task of Ma'am Yonila is shown below. Okay, again, the link of the task of Ma'am Yonila is shown below. It's the link that's scrolling or running down your screen. It's below on your screen. So please do submit your answers of her task on that link. And we've read a lot of comments that the task link are not accepting answers already. So don't worry, teacher participants, because we are closely coordinating with our technical team to check on the problem. All right. I believe our facilitator has some more insights to discuss. So may I request the presence of Dr. Leonila Berdin on screen. Ma'am Leonila.
Hello, good afternoon, Ma'am Marjorie.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Hello po. Ma'am, I think you still have something to say, so I now give you the podium. You may start your discussion.
Okay, because we have that answered that previewing questions due to our did I say interconnectivity. So may I discuss to everybody, to the participants, the previewing questions? Is that okay? So first question is, what are the kind of vocabularies? So that was our first question. So supposedly I need to look at the answers of the participants. Okay, what are your answers? Check your answer if this is like my answer. Okay, the same with my answer. What are the kind of vocabularies? According to Dr. Kajong, learners should have these different kind of vocabularies that will greatly influence their success in school, according to Pikalski and S. Templeton. They identified expressive vocabulary, receptive vocabulary, meaning vocabulary, and literate vocabulary. Expressive vocabulary refers to those that one uses when speaking or writing. Basically, these are the vocabularies that child acquires through his oral language experience as she grows up. It refers to the speaking and writing vocabularies. The receptive vocabulary is used to understand what one hears or reads. It refers to the listening and reading vocabularies. The meaning vocabulary or oral vocabulary refers to the combination of listening and speaking vocabularies. Literate or written vocabulary refers to the combination of reading and writing vocabularies. So look at your answers. The same. So congratulations. Number 2 question. How do children acquire meaning vocabulary? When a child grows up, he acquires meaning or oral vocabulary. Oral language has something to do with the acquisition of meaning vocabulary. These are the vocabularies that she learns or he learns from listening, and these are the same vocabulary he uses when conversing with others. This is acquired from the child is born when he starts talking until he goes to school, like my grandson. So often see my grandson heard her daddy saying uh, because in at home their language is mostly English language because his daddy is having this business, this online business. So often he heard the virtual meeting of his daddy. So one time, uh, he said, "Lola, come in, come here. What are you doing, Lola? Lola, do not go." As early as 1 year old, he can speak. So therefore, I said that vocabulary, he learns that vocabulary from the start. Kasi kung Bisaya din, tulad ko, Bisaya ang nakagisnan, then Bisaya rin ang masabi. Kahit na andon ako sa Amerika, kahit na ka-English, pero ang tono is Bisaya pa rin. So guys, because that is my vocabulary. That just like what Ma'am Almasan said this morning. What you are now is the product of what your environment when you were young. Okay. So next question. How would learners use the receptive vocabulary? Their expressive vocabulary. Papaano ba gagamitin ang receptive? Papaano ginagamit? When a child is already in school, he starts acquiring a literate or written vocabulary. He starts decoding. He starts reading. He uses this in two ways, receptive and expressive vocabularies. He uses the receptive vocabulary when listening to a person. The same vocabularies that make him understand what he is reading. In the expressive vocabulary, the child uses this when he speaks and when he writes. A letter, he can write a letter or a paragraph. He uses this when he is speaking or conversing and sharing. That is why as early as kinder, we have this sharing time. Next, what are the ways vocabulary can be taught implicitly? Implicit vocabulary instruction is a spontaneous teaching of vocabulary, which may happen within or outside the formal instruction. When learners are engaged or exposed to rich oral language opportunities, read aloud experiences, rich print environment, book reading, and translation. So, implicit teaching, implicit instruction of vocabulary. What are, next question, what are the techniques and explicit vocabulary instruction? Techniques. So the how. Explicit vocabulary instruction is an intentional, planned teaching that takes place in a formal instruction. This includes a specific word instruction by selecting words to teach through strategies such as picture clues, real objects, context clues, action clue, and structural analysis. Explicit vocabulary instruction also makes use of word learning strategies, such as the use of dictionary and thesaurus, morphemic analysis, contextual analysis, and semantic clusters. Okay? Another question. What are some of the ways that will foster word consciousness among the learners? Fostering word consciousness is an awareness and of an interest in words. It can be done through wordplay, research on word origins, and through encouraging adept diction. Another, games such as word puzzles, creating words out of a word, and other word games can be developed word consciousness. Learners can be encouraged also to keep a vocabulary notebook. Okay, for other questions and other discussions. So what kind of vocabulary will help learners go through their academic tasks? Ano pong kailangan na vocabulary para malakas ang kanilang reception? Malakas ang understanding and the other subjects. In all subjects, I mean. So we have this literate or written vocabulary. When a child gets to school, he starts decoding. He starts reading. He starts writing. When a child starts writing and reading, he also starts acquiring his literate vocabulary. These are the vocabularies that will facilitate more comprehension in his reading. And this will facilitate academic tasks. These vocabularies can be used in two ways. It can be receptive vocabulary or can be an expressive vocabulary. And other question, what lays the foundation of vocabulary learning? Ano po ang secured base? Just like what Ma'am Villanisa in ELLN and also in DAP, no? She always said that the secured base is the oral language development. In teaching beginning reading, it's just like building a house in which the child is the house. The base is the oral language development. When we start teaching, children learn when we start teaching children how to read, we have to begin to develop his oral language. Before we begin teaching vocabulary, oral language is given a foundation of learning vocabulary. Once a child keeps listening to the words, he acquires vocabulary. When a child is being talked to, he starts to learn new words. Kaya nga ang sabi ni Dr. former Yosik Dina Ocampo, sa classroom, hindi dapat laging tahimik. Nakakatakot po yung classroom na tahimik. Kasi anong ginagawa ng mga bata? Hindi sila nagsasalita. So walang sharing, no? So nasaan ang vocabulary development doon? Nasaan ang oral language? Kaya nga, according to Dr. Pado, kailangan ang teacher ng K-3 madaming talagang stories, maraming nursery rhymes, maraming songs. Okay. How can vocabulary development be taught? It can be taught through implicit vocabulary instruction or explicit vocabulary instruction. Kasi explicit, alam natin yan. The explicit way of teaching. Okay. And another, how would teachers create a rich parent environment? Lalong-lalo na sa K-3 classrooms. Most especially the kinder and grade 1. So, papaano po? First, labeling. You don't have to teach window, for example, but since a child is keep seeing the word, it will be impressed in his mind already. Example, table. The teacher is keep talking about table. This is a table. Put your hands on the table. Get my book. My book is on the table. So, and that word table is, the table is labeled the word table. So, labeling. Kailangan talaga, no? So, kailangan niyang makita and marinig ang salitang ginagamit ni teacher. Next, creating word wall. So, marami na sa atin may word wall. Sa Keto 3, marami talagang word wall. And in our division, kina-check yan ni Dr. Joy kung may word wall ba, pinipicturean yan. No? So, na-impress talaga yung mga supervisors na pag dating nila sa school, andyan ang word wall. No? So, it is useful talaga ang word wall ng klase, ng classroom. Next, word mobile. So, sabi kanina ni Ma'am Kajong, Dr. Kajong, hanger lang yan siya. Tapos, inilagay yon, inihang yung mga words. Then, word calendar. So, may mga words inilagay sa wall na may mga para siyang calendar na i-change siya weekly or daily. Then, putting a mini library inside the classroom. So, sa the Model SOR, maraming mini library. Ang tawag dyan is the library corner, yung tinatawag naming reading corner. So sa reading corner, andon ang mga books. Maraming books na andoon sa according the what we call books appropriate, developmentally appropriate books for the child. For example, kung kinder, wag mo namang lagyan doon ng books na pang grade 6. Example, grade 1, wag lagyan ng books na pang high school. So, by looking at the books, no, kahit na hindi pa sila marunong magbasa, they just look at the pictures and they start reading in that way. So, sa bundok nga, yung sa tinuturoan ko, no, meron kaming reading center. So, every 3 o'clock, every 12 o'clock, 12 to 1, wala nang maglalaro. Andoon sa reading center. Maraming books doon na sa reading center. So, in-scan nila yung mga books. Kasali na doon ang mga books ng BMR, the Bright Minds Read Program, ang books ng NEP, National English Proficiency Program books, nandoon pa rin. Yung books ng Adarna, so andoon. At saka yung ELLN, 10 books, 10 big books na pinapadala mula sa training. Okay, what will make picture clues as technique in developing vocabularies more effective? Paano maging epektibo ang picture clue? According to Dr. Kajong, it needs the provision of sentence based on the picture. Kailangan may sentence yung picture. Use it in a sentence at the same time, giving a clue, asking questions about the picture and about the statement. So, according to Dr. Kajong, picture clue is not picture clue if there are no sentences that will give clue to the meaning of the picture. And at the same time, facilitated with questions, is scaffolded by questions. So, kahit na picture yan siya, may tanong na gagawin, may itatanong si teacher. Okay? So, that's all for the discussion. And
Okay, thank you so much, Ma'am Lunila. For sure, your insights are well taken by our viewers. Again, thank you so much, Ma'am Lunila, and we will see you again later during our open forum. So for now, we will send you backstage. Again, thank you so much, ma'am.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam
Yes.
Leonela A. Berdin.
Okay, so Miss Ava,
And of
our
course, the
time
time
is
is on.
2:23 p.m. On normal days, it's actually a siesta time for us where we can rest and sleep. Okay, so since this is an online training, unlike our previous trainings that we've done in the past where we can just dance or do Zumba, we cannot do that now since we are just having a discussion online. So to put some energy on our training, let's do a little break, and I'm requesting our viewers to just follow after us or me. Okay, so let's refresh ourselves. Let's shake our hands, everybody. I'm requesting our viewers shake your hands. Let's shoo away our sleepy sensation, and then hug your one arm. Okay, and then on the other, and then roll your shoulders. Let's do some stretching so you won't be sleepy while listening to our facilitators. Then again, shake your hands. And then breathe. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. All right. Thank you so much. I hope you have released a bit of your stress because some of our viewers are getting a bit stressed because of the traffic experiencing by our links. So we apologize for that, but our technical team has already expanded the limits of the submission of the task card, so you may retry or refresh the link. Okay, so later, a little bit later, Ma'am Ava, we will post the evaluation link. Okay, so the evaluation link will be opened, but we request everybody to answer right after the last session. So we still have one more session to go. And I would like to say that the new link for the task card of our next presenter will be shown below your screen. It's the scrolling text below your screen. So please take note on that. Miss Ava, please do the honor and introduce our next speaker. Miss Ava? Okay, I think Miss Ava is experiencing some technical problems. Okay, we shall proceed. We are through with the employing vocabulary instruction for effective word structure and meaning recognition. Now let us proceed to a new topic. Can you read between the lines? Making inferences and predicting outcomes, to be discussed by the dynamic English supervisor of Davao del Norte Division, Dr. Alan T. Gilara.
Welcome to CLMD Connect. In support to the Comprehensive Region-Led Learning Continuity Plan (LCP). I teach, integrating technology, academic community, the household, ensuring every learner is safe and protected anytime, anywhere. Anchored on Sulang Ido. This is DepEd Regional Office 11, delivering quality education across Davao region.
Thank you. Good afternoon, dear participants. I am Dr. Alan T. Gilaran. My task is to be your facilitator on the 7th session. I'm going to present to you first the session objectives. Session 7, predicting outcomes. These are the following objectives. First, recognize the nature, principles, and process of predicting outcomes. Demonstrate a working knowledge on the use of DRTA as an instructional strategy for predicting outcomes. And explain how other reading comprehension skills help in predicting outcomes. But before going to our resource person, let me give you some exercises. I know that your brain will be so excited to think about what are the possible outcomes for these different situations. First, play with your thoughts now, for this is the first exercise that I'm going to give you. All you have to do is to predict what will happen next. First situation. Teacher Anna made the most of the long weekend by staying with friends in an out-of-town beach resort. When she came home on Sunday evening, she was so exhausted that she immediately fell asleep as soon as her head hit the pillow. The following morning, Teacher Anna hurriedly made her way to school. But when she got to her classroom, she realized that she forgot to prepare her lesson plan for that day. When she looked at the farthest chair at the back of her classroom, she saw
to CLMD Connect. In support to the Comprehensive Region-Led Learning Continuity Plan (LCP). I teach, integrating technology, academic community, the household. Ensuring every learner is safe and protected anytime, anywhere. Anchored on Sulong Idokalidad. This is DepEd Regional Office 11, delivering quality education across Davao Region.
Hello there, alive, of course, for our regional training on the first day session. So we are really very sorry that we are experiencing the kind of technical difficulties. And it's a very normal sense of this technology education. It's just going to control and of course of this technology. But in any ways, we are really going to provide the pedagogical teaching, of course, by Dr. Alan Signaran of Division of Davao del Norte, and provided the fact that he also would like to put as an apology for the traffic, the heavy traffic that we experienced while we were on the lane, and of course, at the same time for the attendance. And of course, later, we will be complying with online daily evaluation. So, this is it. This is the kind of the normal education that we are experiencing, but of course, the educators who would also would love to be resilient and very enthusiastic and very professional to deal with the new normal of education. This is a response of the COVID-19 pandemic. We just have to avoid the education that we would like to have in our learners at our school. And of course, at the time, still we would love to thank all our dear, amazing, and never our devoted, dedicated teachers, as well as our students. Thank you so much for the support, for the enthusiasm, for the great ideology that we are always having for the future from Sulu to the Calidad. One Davao region, and we always would love to have the someone who Bawat Bata Sila. First, we are very impressed because we have great resource teachers coming from the entire region level. You can get the lesson participants from Davao City. However, we have Dr. Alex of the Division of Davao del Norte. We also have Dr. Gina Gisi Jose. We also have Dr. Visoka and Anjona of the Island Garden City of Samar. We also have Madam Leonina Edudin of Davao del Sur, Citizen of Davao del Sur. So this is it. So we are continually delighted of our duty and responsibility, of course, as educators to provide leading, driving leaders in the field, as teachers, as educators, we always have to be active and dedicated to our calling. And at the time, we'll get back here to our very interesting topic with our learned then Dr. Alan Signaran and education program to provide for all citizens of Davao and North.
Welcome to CLMD Connect. In support to the Comprehensive Region-Led Learning Continuity Plan LCP.
Soon, dear
I
participants,
teach, integrating technology, academic community, the household, ensuring every learner is safe and protected anytime, anywhere. Anchored on Sulong Idokalidad. This is DepEd Regional Office 11, delivering quality education across Davao Region.
thank you. Good afternoon, dear participants. I am Dr. Alan T. Gilaran. My task is to be your facilitator on the 7th session. I'm going to present to you first the session objectives. Session 7, predicting outcomes. These are the following objectives. First, recognize the nature, principles, and process of predicting outcomes. Demonstrate a working knowledge on the use of DRTA as an instructional strategy for predicting outcomes. And explain how other reading comprehension skills help in predicting outcomes. But before going to our resource person, let me give you some exercises. I know that your brain will be so excited to think about what are the possible outcomes for these different situations. First, play with your thoughts now, for this is the first exercise that I'm going to give you. All you have to do is to predict what will happen next. First situation. Teacher Anna made the most of the long weekend by staying with friends in an out of town beach resort. When she came home on Sunday evening, she was so exhausted that she immediately fell asleep as soon as her head hit the pillow. The following morning, Teacher Anna hurriedly made her way to school, but when she got to her classroom, she realized that she forgot to prepare her lesson plan for that day. When she looked at the farthest chair at the back of her classroom, she saw Dr. Villaneza, the school principal, with a blank COT form on her hand. What do you think will happen next? I'm going to give you a few seconds to think. Okay. Well, our chat box now has full of responses. Thank you. How about the next situation? With that left hand full of writings, what do you think will happen next? Thank you, participants, for submitting or responding to our chat box. How about the third? What will happen next given this situation? Okay. I know that you enjoy predicting outcomes for the three situations that I gave you, because we know that our brains are really fond of giving predictions. So, this time, again, before going to have our resource person, like all other sessions, I'm also going to give you post viewing questions. All you have to do is to prepare your camera and be sure to take picture for these post viewing questions, because as you view our resource speaker, you will be expected to send the answers to the following post viewing questions on the chat box or to the link that will be flashed to your screen during our session. Let me give you first the first three post viewing questions. First, what does predicting outcomes mean as a reading comprehension skill? Second, what factors influence learners' predictions of a text? Third, how does predicting outcomes contribute to reading as an active thinking process? I hope that you already take picture for these three questions. Next, the fourth. Why is predicting considered brain compatible learning? How is this manifested among readers? Fifth, what could be the reasons why learners sometimes struggle in reading? And the sixth question, explain the process of DRTA. What are the teachers and learners' tasks in each stage of DRTA? How about the seventh question? How can DRTA be scaled up, down to suit the cognitive ability of different learners? 8. How is everyone on the same page with DRTA? And the last post-viewing question, what challenges might be encountered by both teachers and learners when adopting DRTA? How could these challenges be addressed? Thank you for taking pictures for those questions. Now, I am reminding you again, please don't forget to take note of the link for this session, because in that link, you are going to submit your answers to the post-viewing questions so that I can receive all your answers right after the session. Thank you. Now, without much ado, I'm going to present to you the seventh session speaker for the topic predicting outcomes. She is the Supervising Education Program Specialist, Teaching and Learning Division, Bureau of Learning Delivery. Dear participants, please welcome our speaker, Rosalie Estalio Bongon.
So what we just did, fellow teachers, is an example of predicting outcomes. But notice that when we predict, it's not only limited to that particular reading comprehension skill. Because when we try to predict, there are still a number of reading comprehension skills that are required for us to do, right? Like, for example, before we were able to give our prediction, we made inferences. We even noted some details, right? And we even come up with analyzing the cause-effect relationships, right? So therefore, predicting outcome is not a standalone reading comprehension skill. But how do we define predictions? Okay? Predictions are the connecting links between prior knowledge and new information in the book. What does it mean to predict? A while ago, when you were predicting, you made use of your background knowledge, of your prior knowledge, and you married that background knowledge with what you see on the text, with what you see on that picture. So to predict also means that students use their prior knowledge and what they see in the text to be able to set up their expectations as to what is coming and to be able to prepare meaning, okay? Prepare meaning or come up with meanings as provided for in the text. But students also make use of their knowledge of the vocabulary, their concept, text organization, even the students' knowledge about the author styles, isn't it? If the students have been used to reading text prepared by a particular author, they probably get an idea as to how that author developed his stories, right? Now, there is this book entitled What Teachers Need to Know About Reading and Writing Difficulties. Now, in that book, there is this author, Westwood, who emphasizes that reading comprehension is an active thinking process where the reader intentionally constructs, okay, meaning to form a deeper understanding of the text, okay? And upon extracting, they start also to construct meaning. So therefore, what is indicated in the text and what is stored in the head of our students are equally important, right? So in this process, the role of the teacher is crucial. How do we elicit that prior knowledge of our students? Because if we do not have the power to elicit that prior knowledge, a well-prepared text, a very fresh material, might not be able to serve its purpose for predicting outcomes. It is also said that predicting is a brain-compatible learning. The brain loves predicting, isn't it? The brain loves predicting, particularly when it involves stories or materials which grab our attention and draw our emotion, right? It's common even in ordinary conversation. We love to predict. We wouldn't even allow the person we are speaking with to finish what he or she is telling us. We would predict. We get so excited. And that is a normal process that happens in our brain. It is this element of guessing, right? It is this element of guessing that creates novelty and engages the reader. Well, you know it. The brain seeks meaning by organizing words, forming patterns. Okay? We would naturally look for patterns and we would want to, form or find those those missing pieces. Notice that when students survey narrative texts, strategic readers would look at the cover of the book, the illustration. We would look at the titles of the chapters, even the pictures, captions, even the italicized and bold-faced words. The first few paragraphs, we read them. This aid us in trying to see if the book will have that emotional hook. Okay? Also, when students read expository texts, right? When students read expository texts, they still look at the chapter headings. They still try to see if the book is filled with text and if there are no illustrations. And sad to say, when students don't see illustrations, oftentimes, exactly, ma'am, they don't get motivated to read. So the challenge remains in us teachers. How do we get our students become motivated and, sustain that interest in reading even if they don't see illustrations in the text? Okay? So therefore, it is not enough that we allow our students to guess. It is also essential that they are able to prove their predictions, right? They are able to prove their guesses, that there has to be a valid support to their guess. We cannot allow illogical guesses unless otherwise we allow our students to explain, because it all depends upon their prior knowledge. If we do not get the expected prediction, we cannot blame the student. Maybe the student has another prior knowledge. And later on, when I introduce to you this classic yet very effective strategy, you will see how important it is to allow our students to take chances in our classroom. We also say that predicting is brain compatible even if we are not reading, even if we are just watching movies, isn't it? When we watch movies, sometimes there are fellow watchers who cannot avoid predicting, even up to the extent of interrupting you, right? And that is annoying, isn't it? Oh, there is a spoiler, according to Sir. That is annoying. On the other hand, probably we also have to appreciate that, because that means that they are not passive readers or passive listeners or passive watchers. That means that there is some kind of thinking processes that are, happening in their minds, isn't it? That are happening in their minds. And perhaps we really have to tolerate that among our students. However, despite the fact that predicting is a brain-compatible learning, and a great majority of us love predicting, this is a painful yet inescapable fact that still many of our students remain passive in reading. So readers sometimes struggle because they don't predict what the selection might be about. They don't think about what they already know about a topic. And they don't form images as they read. What they do, according to Beers, is that they open a book, look at words, and begin turning pages. Is that a common scenario in the classroom? Yes, it is. And when we see our students acting this way, we start to question our, effectiveness as teachers, isn't it? We start to question, what will motivate my students to read, to love reading? So it's another challenge for us. What do we do now as teachers? We have to seek the most productive way to support reading comprehension. An effort to challenge students is not only about memorizing, but also questioning, asking them to interpret, to create, to solve problems, to evaluate the material in the teaching learning process. In other words, we have to explore the students' critical thinking in reading comprehension. And in the long run, be able to teach them about their own thinking. And that is what we call as metacognition. Teaching the students to learn on their own, learning to learn. This is essential type of assessment also. We call it assessment as learning, as opposed to assessment of learning, which is about summative assessments, and as opposed to assessment for learning, okay, which is about formative assessment. And when we talk of assessment as learning, that is allowing our students to develop metacognitive strategies so that on their own, they can learn. That's why we always say we have to develop our students to make them become independent learners. But by asking our students or by teaching our students to become independent learners does not necessarily mean that it becomes our opportunity as teachers to take a rest, isn't it? The more responsibility is upon us when we try to teach our students to think about their own learning. Now, for predicting outcomes, one of the classic yet have been repeatedly proven as an effective instructional strategy is called directed reading thinking activity. Okay? DRTA is a comprehension strategy that guides students in asking questions about a text, making predictions, and then reading to prove or disprove their predictions. DRTA encourages students to be actively engaged in text or with the text or story, enhancing comprehension, and leveraging prior and background knowledge. So based on this definition, DRTA focuses on reading as a thinking process. Directing Directing involves activating students' background and prior knowledge of a passage by skimming through to reflect on the title, chapter headings, illustrations, and other information. Now, how do we activate this prior knowledge of our students? We cannot just say, I am showing you this picture, you have to activate your prior knowledge and tell me what will happen next. It's not that. The role of the teacher is big, okay? And it involves our ability to throw thought-provoking questions, right? But we are not just limited to asking, what will happen next? What will happen next? Okay? There could be other thought-provoking questions that we can throw to our students in order to push their thinking and to elicit possible responses that might lead them to understanding the text. What could be these questions that might aid them in giving the most plausible predictions? Again, this could be questions that would require them to do close reading. And in doing close reading, students are required to make inferences, note details, identify cause-effect relationship, even distinguish fact from opinion so that they will be able to come up with more logical predictions. Reading. Reading suggests that the teacher creates chunks, okay? The text is divided into sections. There are predetermined breaks in the text or stories. After each predetermined breaks, the teacher asks questions and students give their predictions while they are listening or while they are reading independently or with teacher support. Okay? Thinking. Thinking means that for each section, students evaluate or refine their prediction. Here we have to model how to use supporting statements from the text in order to be able to prove or disprove predictions. So typically, the teacher will read to students the passage, have them do the thinking and the predicting part. These predictions and confirmations will guide the students' understanding of the text. So here is the process. You will notice that the first one is introduce new portion of text. But perhaps prior to introducing new portion of text, the first thing that we have to do is to look for a fresh material. A text or a story that is unfamiliar to students. Otherwise, the purpose of predicting might be defeated. We have to look for a material which we think the students have not yet read. Okay? So we introduce the text. And then we give the first chunk. It might not be the first chunk. It might even be the cover page. It might even be the first illustration. And then we ask our students to predict the title of the text. What could be the text about? What do you think is the text? What type of story will it be? Okay? And then after that, the students read and check for understanding. Okay. In checking for understanding, it is the obligation now of the teachers to be able to clarify probably difficult words, right? What else? It becomes the role of the teacher also to allow students to recall if they have seen that particular illustration of a book. If it is the first chunk, unlock the difficult words. And then we start encouraging predictions. We throw questions, okay? Which is our way now of encouraging predictions. In encouraging predictions, we accept all. We accept all. As much as possible, we filter only when we ask our students to give their evidences or proof for predicting. That's why it is in clarifying and in verifying. Okay? In clarifying and verifying, this is where the students refine their prediction. The teacher will probably question the students about the evidences that will back the predictions, okay? Why they thought so, okay? That could probably change their mind, which we still have to accept. So therefore, the process of reading, predicting, and then proving or disproving cycle continues until the end of the story. Now, notice that there is a cycle of repetition. And it is this cycle which makes DRTA effective for students with learning disabilities and for some of our students who are struggling readers, right? Struggling readers. Many students with learning disabilities and struggling need repetition within the same content in order to start to gain an understanding. Also, this strategy gives students time for thinking. They are constantly predicting what will happen, justifying and explaining, and then going back to see if the prediction was correct or not, and then trying to fix the prediction. In summary, directed reading thinking activity guides students in asking questions about a text, making predictions, reading to confirm or refute their predictions, encouraging students to be active and thoughtful readers, allow students to ask questions or make predictions using their own words in a non-threatening environment. I think this is very important, fellow teachers, that a non-threatening environment allows our students to feel psychologically safe inside the classroom. Okay? To feel psychologically safe. That it is all right to take chances. It is all right to simply shout their answers during DRTA. That's how we make it, okay? That's how we make DRTA more successful. When we see that everyone is involved and when we see that everyone doesn't have that apprehension to give their answers, okay? Which we always dream of in an English class, in a language class. Because a great majority of our students would refuse to respond to our questions because they are afraid to be laughed at, they are afraid to be humiliated, maybe because their answer is wrong or their grammar is erroneous. All this kind of errors that prevent them from being free inside the classroom. And it is our responsibility as teachers to allow students to experience success in our classroom. This simple success of being able to share his ideas, this is another important manifestation of DRTA. When implementing a DRTA, fellow teachers, we must remember that it is just a larger part of the instructional framework, which contain essential components. So, of course, we still begin our lesson with developing readiness to read the selection, right? And then the second one now is the DRTA, or if we would like to use it as a strategy for listening, or even as a strategy for watching video, for viewing, then we can call it as DLTA or DVTA respectively. And then after which, we still proceed with the usual comprehension guide questions. Okay? And then the rereading of the selection for other purposes. Then we still give evaluation and enrichment activity. Okay? So DRTA is just part of the larger instructional framework that we usually do in our classroom.
will be down presently, Mr. Nuttall. In the meantime, you must try and put up with me.
It is very kind of you to wait with me. Your aunt, Mrs. Sappleton. I'm looking forward to meeting her, I'm sure.
Do you know many of the people around here?
Hardly a soul, I'm afraid. My sister stayed at the rectory 4 years ago, and she's given me some letters of introduction.
Oh.
Oh?
Then you know practically nothing about my aunt?
I know her name and address.
Her great tragedy happened just 3 years ago. That would be after your sister's time.
A tragedy?
You may wonder why we keep these French doors open on such a cold afternoon.
It is quite warm for the time of year.
Out through those doors, 3 years ago to a day, my aunt's husband and her 2 sons went off for their day's shooting. They never came back. Crossing the moor to their favourite snipe shooting ground, all 3 were engulfed in a treacherous piece of bog. Their bodies were never recovered. That was the awful part of it. No grave, no marker. Poor aunt thinks that they will come back someday, they and a little brown Labrador that was lost with them, and walk in as they used to. She spends hours sitting, waiting, watching through the open doors. She won't allow them to be shut until it's dark outside. Oh, I'm sorry. Do sit down, Mr. Nuttall. That was done shortly before they... Poor dear aunt. She's often told me of how they went out. Her husband with his waterproof coat over his arm, and Ronnie, her eldest son, teasing her. The tea'd better be ready when we return, Mamma, else there'll be hell to pay. Do you know, sometimes, on still, quiet evenings like this, I almost get a feeling that they will all just walk in through those doors.
I'm terribly sorry for keeping you waiting, Mr. Nuttall. I hope Vera has been amusing you.
She has been very interesting.
Oh, I hope you don't mind the French doors. My husband and my sons will be home directly from shooting, and they always come in this way. Well, they've been out for snipe in the marshes today, so they'll make a fine mess of my carpets. Typical of you menfolk, isn't it?
They're calling it nervous exhaustion. It's in the family. As you know, my sister...
Is the tea ready? Make sure it is. I seem to remember your sister. Yes. Sweet lady. Yes, your sort don't come down so much anymore. I hope your stay will be peaceful. Are you a shooting man, Mr. Nuttall? Milk?
Just a little.
It hasn't been the same these last few years. The rain and the mud, you see. It's made an infernal quagmire of the marshes.
The doctors agree in ordering me complete rest. An absence of mental excitement and anything in the nature of violent physical exercise. On the subject of diet, though, they are not in such agreement.
No. Oh, here they are at last. And don't they look as if they're muddy up to the eyes?
Tea, let it be ready, Mamma.
Oh, you're covered in mud.
Oh, fairly muddy, my dear, but most of it's dry. They'll need to get used to it if we go to war.
Oh, please, let's not talk about that.
We'll be home by Christmas, you'll see. Jack.
Who was that who bolted out as we came up?
The most extraordinary man, a Mr. Nuttall. He talked about nothing but his illnesses, and then he dashed off without a word of goodbye or apology when you came in.
I expect it was the Labrador. He told me he had a horror of dogs. He was once hunted into a cemetery on the banks of the Ganges by a pack of pariah dogs and had to spend the night in a newly dug grave with the creatures snarling and grinning and foaming just above him. Enough to make anyone lose their nerve, I dare say.
Welcome to CLMD Connect. In support to the Comprehensive Region-Led Learning Continuity Plan LCP. I teach. Integrating technology, academic community, the household. Ensuring every learner is safe and protected anytime, anywhere. Anchored on Sulong Idokalidad. This is DepEd Regional Office 11, delivering quality education across Davao Region.
Okay, hello. How was your experience with our speaker this afternoon? Were you afraid of that horror? What was that? Was it a horror movie or what? Okay, so I hope that you learned so many things from our speaker who talked about predicting outcomes. So I just want to go back to our post-viewing questions. Please, Sir Cholo. Remember what was our post-viewing questions? So what was the first question? We are going to answer those questions this time. What does predicting outcomes mean as a reading comprehension skill? So what did you remember? Predictions are the connecting links between prior knowledge and new information in the book that was according to Gillette and Temple 1990. And also, predicting according to our speaker is a brain-compatible learning. What do you think are the factors which influence learners' predictions of a text? So what did you notice in her discussion? Okay? She said that our learners cannot give, or they are not ready to give predictions if they don't have prior knowledge about the text they are reading. And for the third, how does predicting outcomes contribute to reading and activity thinking process? Predicting outcomes contribute to the reading as an activity thinking process when learners are motivated to read and think. So if they know how to predict, they will be excited to read the text. Next, please. Why is predicting considered brain compatible learning? How is this manifested among readers? Predicting is considered brain compatible learning because our brain is fond of predicting. Our brain loves to predict so much. What could be the reasons why learners sometimes struggle in reading? So, can you still remember? Our speaker said that learners just want to read the title, and if there's no illustrations that they can see there, they won't anymore dare to give predictions. So learner struggle is in reading. They don't think what are their predictions all about. Now, if you're going to explain the process of DRTA, what is DRTA again? Directed Reading Thinking Activity. So, this is a process cycle. And the teacher, according to the speaker, has to look for a very good material, especially, for example, if your lesson is about predicting outcomes. So, what is this process all about? First, you have to introduce new portion of text. The second, read and check for understanding. And next, encourage predictions. This classic strategy, DRTA, or directed reading thinking ability, is a very good strategy. Why? Because a reading teacher must encourage predictions from the learners. But the next step will be clarify and verify. Of course, not all predictions might be correct, right? So the learner must prove, and the proof must be based on the selections being read by our learners. The next is, again, because it is a cycle, they need again to introduce portion of the text. Because when we are going to use DRTA, or directed reading thinking activity, you need to let our learners read the text by chunk. So it's not the whole text immediately, but you need to introduce portion by portion. And the cycle goes this way, that from introducing the portion of the text, they're going again to read and check for understanding. But after that, the next step for the cycle is to confirm predictions. Okay, on the first try, you just encourage predictions. But this time around, you need to confirm whether their predictions are correct or not, based, again, from the text given. And finally, for the last step for this DRTA is to encourage predictions. Now, how about the eighth question? Liz? How can DRTA be scaled up, down to suit the cognitive ability of different learners? So, do you think this DRTA is only good for the fast readers? I don't think so, because DRTA can be a very good tool or strategy, because if you're going to go back to the cycle of this DRTA, the learners are encouraged to give their predictions. Therefore, they can just give their own predictions to suit their cognitive ability or the different types of learners that you have in the classroom, because you do not stop them of giving their own answers. So, how is everyone on the same page with the RTA? Well, as we said, since this is a very good tool for a non-threatening chance of the learners to give whatever their predictions will be, our learners can think that they are on the same page, or they will not be conscious of what they will be answering. Since this DRTA, again, as I said, will be for all types of our learners to participate. And lastly, the question posted was, what challenges might be encountered by both teachers and learners when adopting the RTA? How could these challenges be addressed? Well, if we are going to go back to the different steps of the RTA cycle, imagine that the teacher needs to look for a very good material, introduce new portion of a text until completing the cycle. I think the teacher might not consider this DRTA because of the long process. Okay, that could be possible challenge for the teachers. But to address this one, why not try? Why not try the RTA? Why not give your students the chance to give what they can offer, especially when you will introduce this lesson? How about the learners? Is there any possibility that, okay, usually predicting outcomes is one of the least learned skills, right? And usually we will ask why is so? Why is predicting outcome difficult? Well, if you listen very well to Ma'am Rosalie Bongon, she emphasized that in teaching predicting outcomes as a comprehension skill, let us not forget that this skill is not a standalone skill. We need, before any learner can develop, can master how to predict outcomes, our learners must first master the connecting comprehension skills. So before they can predict outcomes, of course, they must know how to note details, right? Mastery of noting details, identifying facts from opinions, letting them master the cause and effect, and all other comprehension skills that must be mastered by them, or to connect them before they will master the predicting outcome comprehension skill. And how to address that? We must remember always that let us not teach predicting outcome immediately to our learners, but instead, let's go back first and know whether they already mastered other comprehension skills. Next. Next, please. Okay. I want also the participants to remember that when we implement DRTA, a teacher must view the DRTA as part of a larger instructional framework containing its essential components. I just want to reiterate that we need to develop the readiness to read selection, meaning let's choose the best material or materials that we can use for any comprehension skill that we want them to master. Then we can now freely use DRTA or directed reading thinking activity. Notice that in the presentation of our resource speaker, she also let you view a movie. That was a film cut, actually. A movie entitled An Open Window. What do you think was the purpose of our speaker? Her purpose actually is to let us realize that we can use this classic method of improving the comprehension skill of our learners by not just using text. We know that our learners nowadays are also interested to view movies. So we can also use DVTA, or what we call directed viewing thinking activity. So that was actually the purpose of our resource speaker, why there was a film cut in her presentation. For us to realize that we can use DVTA and using again the cycle, the process, using talking about the movie first and so on, upon reaching to the last cycle step. Comprehension check is very important, of course. We need to give comprehension questions for us to know whether they already mastered the comprehension skills that we let them master. Rereading the selection for purposes specified by the teacher. Why? Why is this very important? So this is the beauty of the RTA, because when we teach the text or the film by cut, by chunk, we can let our learners reread again the selection for that purpose. And finally, evaluation is very important also. Why? Okay, she discussed actually assessment as learning, meaning that our learners could have the chance to develop their thinking skills when using this particular method. And finally, enrichment activities. Why our speaker wants us to remember that enrichment activities are very important, especially that we need to have a bank of selection or materials, reading materials, that we can just pick and choose whether that material, that story maybe, or that selection will be very good material, will be a very good material for predicting outcomes, for making inferences or other comprehension skills. So our challenge, by the way, for all our English teachers, I know that you have so many file or bank of selections that you can make use in the enrichment activities. Our speaker emphasized that we need to give materials which were not used by our learners before, especially when we will introduce another comprehension skill. And lastly, participants, I want to end as your facilitator in session 7 with this thoughts. Daniel Tammet said, this is how important predicting outcomes will be using our brain. Lastly, I want to quote this Daniel Tammet's sayings that goes this way. The human brain is like a memory system that records everything that happens to us and makes intelligent predictions based on those experiences. So, again, good afternoon, and I hope that you learn so many things from our resource person, Ma'am Rosalie Bongon.
Thank you so much to, of course, our Education Program Supervisor from the Division of Davao del Norte, Dr. Allen Tigularan. Of course, coming from a notable resource facilitator today, can you read between the lines? Making inferences and predicting outcomes. Such a very impressive presentation. And of
Thank
course, at
you.
this point, you are most welcome, Madam. And at this time, we also would like to call Madam Leonela A. Burden from the Division of Davao del Sur. At this time, we will facilitate innovative solutions from the questions coming from all our teacher participants and even school heads entire Region 11. And of course, at this time, we have, actually, ma'am, this had prompted early in the morning, but I always believe that as one team of educational program supervisors at the same time the school heads, we are one heading on the same direction and we all always can answer all these questions. And the first question is coming from the Division of Davao Occidental. The processes for reading presented in this webinar are mostly done in a face-to-face learning modality. In this new normal, how do teachers effectively apply this on a modular approach?
Okay, thank you for that question from Davao City. May I be the first to answer, Ma'am Berdin? Okay. Yes, it's true. You may ask that what we are introducing to you through this literacy instruction training might not be fitted for a new normal or on a modality modular platform. But I want to, I'm sorry if I want to discourage you for thinking about that. Why? Because this time, our department, not just the central office, but all of us, we are moving heaven and earth this time, preparing the ADM modules by the central office across the country. And we also know that at the moment, our LMS, Region 11, is also coming up with different activity sheets with lesson exemplars at the same time. And each division also prepared different activity sheets also. And you know why we are doing this one? Because we are ready to adopt this new normal. We can still apply all this because I strongly believe that all our writers now, trained writers, also integrated all what they learned from these strategies on how to teach reading comprehension skills, not just in the face-to-face manner, but through modular modality. Don't worry, our writers fit all those types of strategies adaptable through our modular platform.
Well said of our Davao del Norte's Education Program Supervisor, Nadam Alan Tigilaran. Would you like to add Nadam Leonela Di Berden?
Your microphone, ma'am. Berdin, unmute your mic, please.
Okay. Uh,
Thank you.
okay. So, Ma'am Allen strikes, and in addition to that, the central office promised to uh, give or make that modules. And in fact, yesterday, the SONA of the President Rawa Duterte, uh, he said that he had budget for this modular learning delivery. And within fact, the central office is ready for the distribution. And we are going, the schools will be the one to reproduce those modules. And if ever on August, this will not realize but late, no? Alam mo na yung mga delayed. So the divisions, even the regions, had that supplementary modules with in fact our district-made modules. And maraming nagtatanong, why do teachers made the modules with in fact the central office is offering the modules? So para po iyan siya na kung ma-delay po ang pagdadala ng modules, meron ng ibibigay. Okay. So, hindi po tayo mag-worry. So, even the parents will na sinabihan ko na sila na hindi kayo mag-worry. Education still will go on. Because we have modules. And, sabi ng isang parent ko, what if the learnings, the lessons that parents don't know the lesson? So, andyan po ang mga teachers, may cellphone. Tatawagan po nila. So, that's it.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Leonela D. Berdin. And of course, this is an inspiration and hope to all our teachers out there that comes August 24, 2020. It's going to start and no one can hinder us to the quest of a quality of education. And this time, we have another question coming from the Division of Davao Oriental. Good day, Mom and Sir. In relation to this webinar, how would we use this learning if we are teaching in upstream areas where online classes is impossible? To realize knowing that we are prohibited to visit directly the houses of the students. In addition, we cannot leave the words to the parents knowing of their capacity.
Okay. Well, yeah. It's also good to have that question. No? That's, I think, one also of the apprehensions of not just the teachers' apprehensions, but for all our stakeholders. We call those situations challenges, gray areas, the things, the dark side of what we are thinking about. But first, if you're going to think about how can we give a chance, no, for our learners who cannot access or who don't have access in the internet, no? They cannot do it online. So that's why we call this one, Ma'am Maureen, blended learning. We are not just prepared for an online thing, but DepEd, our department, our division, the 11 divisions at the moment of Davao region, we are all ready not just for online, but we are ready for blended platform using not just online, but let's go back to a modular platform. So if you ask that teachers are not allowed to have face-to-face or even prohibited to go to the areas because it's not advisable. I think at the moment, our local government units, through our local executive, our barangay captains, our porok leaders even, no? I just want to share with you, Maureen, how did we implemented our Davao del Norte reading curricula for 8 weeks. Yes, there are really parents who said, Ma'am, we will not bring that reading modules to our learners in the far-flung areas because on the first place, we are not teachers. I think you teachers are responsible of bringing those materials there. So there are really teachers who passionately, painstakingly went there because they were not assisted by their purok leaders or their barangay captains. But luckily and fortunately, only few. Majority of the barangay captains, Sangguniang Bayan officials, everybody are helping. They are, you know what? We spent more than 2 million for our reading materials, and that materials must not be stocked. It must reach to our learners. So it was never impossible in our division to distribute those modules in reading because everybody helped. And the principal, if, as I said, if nobody will help them, that was the solution. Yeah, really. We keep on posting on our social media through FB all the teachers doing, especially those who were not assisted by the barangay stakeholders. But still, no, sabi nga nila Ma'am Maureen, pag gusto, maraming paraan, 'di ba? Pag ayaw, maraming dahilan. Yun lang yun. We need to face those challenges. Our dear teachers, let us be positive. COVID lang yan. DepEd tayo.
Wow, what a great inspiration coming from Dr. Alan Tigilaran. This is it. That is really the spirit because in spite of it all, COVID-19 pandemic is there, but we have to go with our new normal of education. Right, Madam Leonela D. Berdin?
Yes. Okay, just like our Deputy Secretary said, ang DepEd, kung babaliktarin mo man, DepEd pa rin. So, education must go on. Kahit na may COVID, no? Kahit na may lindol. The models are na, nililindol. So, tulong edukalidad. So, as I've said that, in this pandemic, tulong pa rin ang edukasyon. Why? Because we prepared the modules. And just like Ma'am Alin said, the LSB, the government is helping us. And I want to share what the Santa Cruz municipality have shared. No? So we will be given the schools, the 13 schools, 26 schools, I mean, in Santa Cruz will be given the internet connection worth 49,000 per school for that internet connectivity for this education to go on. And another one, the health officials, especially the BSW, are willing to help the teachers. Just like in Matutungan Elementary School, wala na po kaming problema pag-distribute ng modules. Why? We ask the assistance of our barangay nurse and the BSW for the assigned BSW for every purok will be the one to distribute the materials. So ayun lang, yan lang siya pa connection, no? Stakeholders connection. So kailangan na partner talaga. Dito na natin makikita ang partnership ng school at saka ng community. Okay, that's it, Ma'am Ava.
Thank you so much, Madam Leonela de Burden. Yes, Dr. Allen Giraran.
I want to, I'm inspired with the answer of Mom Berdino. I remember yesterday, if you witnessed or view our president, His Excellency Rodrigo Roa Duterte, I was so inspired. I was so happy when I heard him. A sort of giving caution to Smart and Globe. Our president questioned Globe and Smart why until this time they still have that very poor service. And he even told that Globe and Smart, given just only up to December, di ba, Maureen? Did you hear that SONA during the SONA of our president? That's good. That could be a good thing to consider, right? Even our president, he wants it. No, this time to make things happen. So we're not alone. Hindi tayo nag-iisa. No, we are not alone. I remembered Carmen, our mayor, no, na walang pabor-pabor ha. Our mayor, 'di ba alam natin yung SEF funds natin ngayon? We cannot use our SEF funds to sports and to trainings, 'di ba? So, you know what our local government executive did? She budgeted around how many thousands to buy Rizo or Rizo printer. That's it, no? So let's call for everybody to help just to print all those modules. Kasi yun na naman yung Marino, sasabihin naman nila konti lang yung MOA ng school, tama din naman. Pero kaya natin, alam ko, kakayanin natin yan. Lahat kasi ng fundings, di ba, hihigupin. Yung region nga, no? They're trying to, itong training na to, alam nyo ba, kung paano naghirap ang ating regional director, Evelyn Fitalvero, yung ARD natin na si Ma'am Ines, no? Despite the pandemic, at andito tayo, di ba? So, what a very good safe performance of our region. Nandyan si Chief Janet Veloso, hindi na yan natutulog ngayon ha, at saka si Doc Manuel, yung ating focal.
Na-inspired tayo, Ma'am Ava.
Yes, Madam Berdine. Precisely true, Madam. And of course, this is really an indication that the Regional Training on Literacy Instruction, spearheaded by none less than Chief Janet G. Velosa, and of course, our Education Program Supervisor, Dr. Manuel P. Vallejo. This is really a Bayanihan Rehiyon 11, Sulong Ido Calidad. Yes, Ma'am, there's another question. 2 thumbs up. Okay. So there's another question from the Division of Panabo City. Any suggestion, strategy on how we can do it in this new normal situation where no face-to-face modality is allowed? Kung saan na lang ang early graders?
Okay. I just want to let everybody knows that we're not just preparing modules or activity sheets for starting grade 4, but I want everybody to know that the kinder from kinder to 12, and even our special education, no? For our special learners, they also have their own activity sheets. So we cannot really imagine this time, but during our meeting, our last meeting, Maureen and Ma'am Leonila, with our schools division superintendent, she said that during the regional MANCOM, DepEd is now preparing also para teachers, no? Para teachers who can help, especially remote areas, that we can really reach the unreachable, especially the vulnerable ones, the kinder, yung mga cute na kinder, yung grade 1, 2, at saka 3, no? So, there is really a means to reach them. Let us not worry because, as I said, going back to our preparation for this blended learning, we start it from the very or the youngest in our level, the kinder. We are prepared even for kinder up to the senior high school. So nothing to worry. We can still adjust.
Thank you so much, Dr. Allen T. Gilaran. Okay, thank you, ma'am. How about Madam Leonila Di Berdin? Would you like to add for more, Madam?
Yes, Ma'am Allen and Ma'am Maureen. Even the early grades, especially kindergarten, sabihin natin, papaano matuto ang mga bata na walang teacher? So in our division, under the guidance of Dr. Joy Barikit, kung hindi natutulog si Ma'am Janet sa division, sa region, si Dr. Joy Barikit ng kinder focal person sa division namin ng Davao do Sur, hindi rin niya natutulog. With in fact, our kinder modules are ready for checking. Tapos na po lahat and dadalhin na po yun sa the regional office for approval. And that modules were crafted by the division experts with Ma'am Joy. Ma'am Joy Barikit. Salamat kay Ma'am Joy sa inyong mga kahago. And thanks to our STS, Sir Nelson, and our very active assistant School Division Superintendent, Ma'am Marilyn Bidoyo. So, lahat-lahat po na tulong-tulong para matuto kahit na ang mga kinder. And hindi po mag-aalala ang mga parents. So, alam na nila ng DABSOR na hindi na nila mag-aalala. Kailangan na mag-enroll kasi matuto talaga ang kanilang mga bata.
Thank you so much, Madam Leonela Di Berdin. And of course, the moment is practically engaging because of the questions thrown by our 11 divisions. Our teacher participants are all active in this time. That is the last question, Madam, unless that you would like to convey messages to our viewers, school heads in entire Region 11.
Okay. Yeah. I want to end our task with Ma'am Berdin this afternoon by telling everybody that aside from all of us preparing, of course, we have our God Almighty, our Lord, our Savior, who will save us from all pandemic. We only trust God and everything will follow. We will never go wrong with God. In God, we have to trust. And aside from that, we need to work hand in hand. Instead of being the problem, we must be the solution to the problem. Instead of bashing our department, instead of bashing our officials, we must not do that, but instead, let's contribute what we can do just to address the challenges that we are facing. Let us remember that time flies so fast. This is the last week of July. We're already August next month, and we are nearing to August 24. And I hope that everybody is excited. As one DepEd family, let us unite and let us be very proud that with the leadership of all our officials out there, including even no less than our President Duterte everything will gonna be all right in the Philippine educational system. Sulong edukalidad. And let us not forget all the jests, the meat, everything that we will learn from this literacy instruction training. Please, I'm begging everyone, let us apply what we will be learning from this training. Would it be on an online or offline platform? I know we can do it. Thank you again to our director, Ma'am Evelyn Fidalvero, ARD Ines Asuncion, CLMD Chief, Janet Veloso, na siya pa yung tumulong sa akin how to go live for my extra part of this training. Thank you so much. May ihad akong intelligent at maganda pa. To Sir Manuel Vallejo na hindi na natutulog. My salute to you, Bebe Manuel. Thank you so much. And of course, I'm very proud to tell you that all the education program supervisors of Davao Region, 11 of us, with Ma'am Berdine, some of our selected school heads, and everybody, PSDSS, lahat-lahat tumutulong. At hindi ko makalimutan ang lahat kong fans from Davao del Norte na nagdasal sa akin. Davao de Oro, taga Kumbalbaya ko. And of course, to all divisions, thank you so much. I know, no, jokingly, this is a kind of training na dili gid mo kapanglaba, di pud mo kana pananom og cacti or any plants, di ba? Because every second counts. To all of us, to Maureen, to Marjorie, and to the rest of the TWG, Cholo, Joshua, lahat kayo. Thank you so much for your assistance to us. God bless.
God bless you, Madam. The pleasure is ours. Dr. Berdine?
Okay. So, really, this time, we need that true and honest commitment. We need to remember our pledge to the Fed. Because when we enter the Fed, this is the noblest profession. A teacher is the noblest profession. So, pag sinabing noble, kasali na yan, mayroon tayong obligasyon. And para na tayong nagmadre. No? So, commitment, as I've said, we need the commitment. And we remember that this time, no man is an island. We need one another. Teacher ka man, principal, supervisor, division, region, kailangan natin ang isa't isa. We need one another. And with God's guidance, we can do it! Region 11.
Wow. Thank you for that one, Madam Leonela D. Berdin. Such as the regional training on literacy instruction like this, definitely the improvement of reading strategies for struggling readers is an imperative component of any reading intervention activities. Thank you so much to our resource facilitators of today, Dr. Gina G. Silvestre, Dr. Jesusa L. Ambrona, Madam Leonela A. Berdin, and of course, Dr. Alan T. Gilaran. Thank you all so much to you. And of course, we're going to see all of you in the next gatherings that we have. Thank you, Madam, and may the force be with you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And at this time, of course, we are going to have back our Ms. Marjorie, my partner. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Miss Ava. Yes, I am feeling good. Once again, I would like to say thank you once again to our speakers this afternoon, Dr. Ilaran and Ma'am Berdine. Okay, so our time, Ma'am Ava, is already 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Before we end, we will choose once again at this juncture another SDO that will assign teacher or coordinator who will give the recap tomorrow. Okay, so this time we will exclude Davao Occidental because they are already done earlier this morning. Okay, so we will choose among the remaining 10 divisions. Okay, so are you ready, Ma'am Ava?
Yes, I am.
All right. Our controller, Sir Cholo, please spin the wheel.
Okay, there you go. The luckiest one is from the island garden city of Samal, who will do
Yes,
the
our wheel
recapitulation
has spoken.
tomorrow.
Yes, and we would like to remind Igakos and its assigned speaker tomorrow to please limit your message for about 2 to 3 minutes. Short but concise recap will do. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, to all our viewers, our evaluation link now is up. Please post it below, sir. Okay, so here is our evaluation link for today. That's bit.ly/literacy. Day to literacy is in capital letters. So please take note on that. Literacy is in capital letters. And our evaluation is up until tonight. Okay, so we will give ample time to our teacher participants to answer the evaluation link, and again only answer for the English group. Okay, do not include a Filipino, only answer for English group.
Okay, that's exactly correct for the evaluation link. And of course, at this time, we also would like to thank our Regional Director of the Region 11, Ms. March, Director Evelyn R. Fitalvero Ceso 4, and of course, our Assistant Regional Director, Dr. Maria Ines C. Asuncion, and our Chief of the Curriculum and Learning Management Division, Chief Janet G. Velosa, and of course, the Learning Area English Education Program Supervisor, Dr. Manuel P. Vallejo, and of course, along with Dr. Jesselyn de la Cuesta and Dr. Maricel Langayed, and of course, other staff here. They are all very helpful in making all this possible this afternoon. Okay, Ma'am Marge, and at this time, is there anything that you would like to have your heartfelt thanks for this activity?
Yes, Ma'am Aba. Before I forget, I would like to thank personally Ma'am Marisa Langahid, our Education Program Supervisor for ALS, and of course, Ma'am Jocelyn D. De La Cuesta for MAPES, FED, SPS, and SPA. Thank you so much for assisting us, Ma'am Ava, with our we say hairstyling, okay, so that we can appear good and presentable on screen. Thank you so much, Ma'am Maricel and Ma'am Jesseline. It's highly appreciated. And of course, let's not forget Ma'am Ava, Sir Pocholo Hernandez, Ma'am Casey, and Sir Joshua for assisting our facilitators and making sure that their presentation and their tasks are all ready. And of course, once again, we will not be tired in giving thanks to all our division coordinators for English, Dr. Tito Envina, Dr. Alan Guilara, Dr. Raymond Aquino, Dr. Darwin Suyat, Dr. Emily Raquel, Dr. Maria Angelita Perpetuas Welco, Dr. Nancy Samagaysay, Dr. Jesusa Ambrona, Dr. Maria Gina Silvestre, Dr. Hilda Opeña, Dr. Leonila Berdin, Dr. Narmila Espedido, and Mr. Bernardino Magno Jr. Thank you very much.
Okay, there you go, Miss March. According to one of the participants, Edwin Azucena in Davao City, learning, relearning, and unlearning. This is very inspiring for us all educators. We hope that the energy and enthusiasm of our resource facilitators of today and the need to attend the quality is now. We all started the access and right now. The Department of Education is making known to all of us the advocacy and pivoting the pursuit on the quality of education, including our reading proficiency. Once again, this is Maureen Ava B. Acuña, your virtual host, One Davao Region, bawat bata bumabasa, sulong edukalidad.
We hope that you, our viewers, have learned something new from our facilitators today. And we hope and expect your full participation until the very end of our training. And please do not be discouraged of the difficulties that we have encountered. Let us sustain our eagerness to learn and our willingness to face the new normal. Fight lang para sa bata at para sa bayan. Thank you very much. This has been Marjan Hilario, and we are ending this live stream in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much.
Welcome to CLMD Connect. In support to the Comprehensive Region-Led Learning Continuity Plan (LCP). I teach. Integrating technology academic community, the household. Ensuring every learner is safe and protected anytime, anywhere. Anchored on Sulong Idokalidad. This is DepEd Regional Office 11, delivering quality education across Davao Region.